Hello and welcome to another video, and I hope you are all well. And to those people pointing out about the dust and orbs and do I believe in orbs, that was dust. And I know it's dust because, how can I explain it? If I go like that, I bet it ain't going to happen now. Normally you get some sort of orbs or something coming around. No, but most of it is dust, okay? Someone's pointing out to me that I get a lot of orbs flying around me when I'm making the videos. And it's just that I don't dust the room, so I live in dust. Right, so that's probably going to be the quickest sidetrack I've ever done in a video. So I'll try and keep them to a minimal in this one. This is a video. I said that this is going to be a difficult one to put together. And it's because we are talking about children and the East End of London during a period of time where children were suffering, and we had Thomas Barnardo's come down, and he transformed the lives of so many children in giving them education and a meal. And this is the story of the rugged school in Copperfield Road, East London. Now it's just by Mile End, so some of you may know it, some of you may have heard of it about other reasons, and that's the history of Barnardo's. Others may know about it through the paranormal stories that you're going to hear today. But we're going to cover both sort of sections because it's important that you know the history of this building and some of the events that have taken place in it to understand why it could be haunted or what else could be going on in there. But just before we get into it, I do need to ask you, can you just check you're subscribed to the channel? I've noticed that a lot of people in my comments have been saying they were subscribed and they've gone to the subscriptions and it's been unticked and the notifications are not on. So I don't know what's gone on there. I know there's about 30 to 40 people over the last few videos that said that they thought they were subscribed and they're not now and they've resubscribed. So can you just check that for me? If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the hype button if you can find it, and don't forget to turn your notifications on. So let's get into this creepy, sad location. So I guess in today's world, we all know Barnardo's as the charity shop, but not many people of the younger generation really know what Barnardo's was. And this was about Dr. Barnardo's. He left medicine to start looking after the children in downtrodden areas. And obviously one he focused on was London and the East London area. And one of the first schools that he opened up, which is the Raggedy School, which is what it is now called above the building, and that was in Copperfield Road in East London. Now he actually left medicine to take on this challenge of helping children. He was looking around the streets of East London and all these kids are walking around wearing rags, and where you get the Raggedy School comes from, you know, you had to be really downtrodden to be able to use these schools. It was a free school. Well, these kids weren't welcome at the schools on Sundays, so you got to remember back then in 1877 people didn't get free education. It was very rare that they got into school. If they weren't privileged or they weren't from well-off families, they were not going to the school. The church offers some schooling on Sunday schools, but they're not going to let kids in who look like this. So, Dr. Barnardo's in 1887, he left medicine to take on this challenge of helping these children. He set up this free school. Now, this was a previously used warehouse in Copperfield, and it had a checkered history beforehand. A lot of the companies there had gone bust, and they were going to knock it down, but Dr. Barnardo's comes along and goes, no, this is what I want to do. And they gave approval for that. He only got a year's lease to start off with, and almost immediately the success that he was getting through that school was quite incredible. It's estimated over 40,000 children plus went to this school over the 31 years it was actually open. The estimated was that there was around about 600 children per day using that school. So it's quite a busy school. And I walk around here, you can see the size of classrooms. I do believe there are other parts of that warehouse that used to be the school that are now other units or buildings. So I'm guessing, and I'm 9% on this, that this is only half of the building that has been used, and some of it may have extended onto. And we've got some stories coming up that fit into that sort of criteria as well. But I'm going to start by saying that when you walk into this building, you feel sad. I went in there not knowing what to expect. And like you do when you go to a museum that's set up like this, you read all the stuff that is on the boards around the area. And I got really emotional. And I don't know how YouTube's going to take this, that I'm going to show a lot of photos that are up on the walls and all that of all the children that went there. Heartbreaking thing is the big montage of kids that's up on that wall. The lady in reception was telling me that most of those are buried in Mile End Cemetery because most of them died of cholera or TB and never made it to adulthood. And when you're reading some of these stories that you go through, it's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. You see these innocent kids' faces, it's just soul destroying that the world used to be like that. And you've got to hope that the world never goes back to that. And you hear all these horrible stories what's happening around the world at the moment, and the first thing that you always think about is the children. After the building shut down in 1908, it was used as another factory and then later on as a gym. Now I believe the gym was between either 1970 up to 1980, and we've got a story about that. But the first story I'm going to tell you comes from the 1970s, and it's quite a strange event. We have a cyclist riding his bike through Mile End. He's coming past Copperfield Road and he gets struck by a car and he's laying down in the road. The story is retold by a paramedic. The paramedic comes to the scene and in all intents and purposes the cyclist is not alive and he's performing CPR and he gets the gentleman back breathing. In the ambulance, the gentleman turns around and tells him that he had an out-of-body experience while he was laying on the road, and he looked up and there's all these children standing around him in really old-fashioned and tatty clothing. The paramedic turns around and says that there was no children around the area when this happened, and in fact only 2 people actually come across him when he got hit, and they were the only 2 people that stayed there through the whole thing. So there's definitely no other children around there. But the paramedic did know the history of what that building used to be, and he relayed that to the victim in the ambulance. I don't know if that was the best time to tell him that he's just seen a ghost, but the victim, the person who got injured, made a full recovery. And he went back, he stood at the spot where he got hit by the car, and he swears that at one point it felt as if there was a small hand going into his hand and holding on to it. He jumps back and pulls his hand up, then realised that at the same time he felt so happy. He had like this real joyful feeling come over him. So I've spent the last couple of weeks deep diving into this place, trying to reach out to other people that have had experiences around this building, old staff members, people who used to live near it, and the stories are quite fascinating. There's not much online about it, I'll say that now. I don't know why this hasn't been investigated more. Even the museum itself doesn't have a book on the history of this place. You can't go in there and buy a book on it, which I find is very, very strange. It's no, especially for Barnardo's, if they produce quite a little cheap little booklet, they could help raise money for Barnardo's for it. So I don't know what the situation is with that. Now, one of the other ones we have, I quite enjoy because it's from somebody that, if you looked at them, you wouldn't think that they'd be put off by ghosts or they'd even believe in ghosts. This guy was a big bloke. His name is Tony Mercer. He was known around the local area for bodybuilding and all this sort of stuff. This is in between the 70s and the 80s. Now, this is where I believe it must have been used as a gym. He's there training. Now, I don't know what floor this was on. He's in there and he's using the skipping rope, going faster and faster. I don't know if he was trying to be a boxer or anything like that, but obviously footwork and all that was quite important, and speed work and all that, so probably it would be boxing. He's doing the skipping rope. When in front of him, he sees 2 school children full manifestations of two old scruffy looking school children. They don't last long and they disappear. He turns around and says to other people in the gym that what he'd seen, and they take a little poke and fun out of him and say, no, you're making it up. Over the next couple of weeks, other people in that gym, that was dust, other people in that gym come up to him and say, well, look, you said about seeing that child. He goes, well, when I come in the morning, I feel really weird, as if other people were here with me and I'm on my own, and I get really creeped out. So when you said that, now I'm thinking that those children are here all the time. So they're the sort of little ghost stories that I like and I enjoy, because it's from somebody that you wouldn't straight away think would be scared of a ghost. Are ghosts to be scared of? It's energy really, aren't they? So all ghosts and sightings is supposed to be energy forming, and that energy from our body goes somewhere, and does it create a spirit-like figure or whatever? So you've got some big bloke, he's now believing in ghosts. What does it say for the next guy who comes in, who is an electrician, that is absolutely ridiculed by his friends? Okay, so by the end of the 80s, the building is in poor shape and the council want to pull it down. But local historians and the museums around the area say that it's too an important building to lose. A lot of the old stuff is still stored away, the old tables and chairs and all that sort of stuff. They've still got access to it. The building as it stands has basically remained untouched. Even though it's been used as a factory and a gym and all this sort of stuff, it's still the same building. Nothing's really changed in there at all. But it needs upgrading. They managed to save it. In 1990, it opens back up as the museum that you see today. But a lot of work had to be done. In comes the electricians that probably think this is the worst job they've ever had in their life. So how the story is retold is that these two electricians are down in the basement of the building, and you can walk down there, and I do walk down there in this video, and you go down to the next level where you got the calf. He's down there and he's doing the wiring. In the corner of the basement, he sees a blue light and he's thinking something's glowing. I've connected up the wires and no, something is glowing over there. He goes over there and there's nothing in that corner. There's nothing electrical he can see in that corner, and the little blue light that he was looking at has gone. He comes back, he walks back over to what he was working on, and he turns around again. He sees this blue glowing light once again in the corner of the room. He's thinking, I must be missing something. It must be coming from somewhere else, reflecting onto it. He walks back over. He turns around and says to his friend, can you see the blue light while I'm over here and where it's reflecting? His friend turns around and says, yes, it's moving up your arm. The electrician turns around and says that he has a blue ball the size of a golf ball moving up the side of his arm, and he said it's giving him a tingling sensation all over, and then it disappears. The two electricians don't know what to make of this, and being lateral thinking people, they're thinking that maybe they've done something down there and there's like energy, electric something they've done, and maybe some sort of electrical pulse they've set off or anything like that. They're scratching their heads trying to come up with anything apart from it being a ghost. Anyway, it comes to the end of their day work. He's left his tools down in the basement. He don't want to go down there. He's giving them the creeps. He's not talking out about it and all that. He goes downstairs. The next thing his friends know, he's running up the stairs screaming and white as a ghost himself. And he turned around and said that he was down in that basement. He picked up his toolbox. As he turned round, there's a thick black figure of somebody standing in front of him. He goes and he run through him to get out. So it also wasn't a solid figure. He run through this black figure to get out and up the stairs back out. Everyone was just literally rinsing him for days and days that he had seen this ghost. Well, Once again, that didn't last long because other people on that job site also started having little weird events happen themselves. But this was only things like tools going missing, maybe hearing footsteps when there's nobody else there, which we'll come back to later on. But just little events that made them question maybe they shouldn't have been so fast in taking the mickey out of the electrician. So now on a slightly sadder note, we have the story of a lady that used to work there. I don't know if she's a volunteer or a paid staff member, but she used to spend quite a lot of her time also researching some of the history, and she'd been affected by a lot of the stuff that had gone on in that building. And when I mean stuff that had gone on in the building, by how it had helped so many children. She felt that she was doing a good deed in being there and retelling the story to all the school groups that would come in and show them what it used to be like years ago, and basically how lucky they were to be born today and not then. But she said one day that she was closing up the building and putting things away, and she's come down the stairs. She had this wave of sadness come over her, and then she could hear sobbing at the bottom of the stairs. Now this is coming down to the exit where you got a big wall of children's photos that are up. And she said that this is where the sobbing was coming from. She went down and she's standing in that area. The door's shut, the front doors are all shut, and there's nobody else around in that building. And she's getting quite creeped out. Funny enough, when I said to the lady that's working at the moment about, is this haunted? Have you ever seen anything? She turned around to me and gave me a knowing look and turned around and said, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't like to spend the night here. So even then, they think there is something going on. But going back to what the lady was saying, she could hear this sobbing coming from down in that area. She's walking around trying to pinpoint where it's coming from. And then by the stairs, right by the corner of the stairs, she can pick up that it's getting louder and louder. And she said the sound is about halfway down those stairs. She starts walking down those stairs, but walks past the sobbing. So whoever it was sitting on the top of those stairs crying. She goes, but she couldn't see nobody. But as she walked back up, she walked through the crying sound again. And what she done, she turned around and said that she sat on her knees and turned around and spoke to that sobbing sound that she heard as if it was a child. And turned around and said, don't worry, everything's been okay and people love you. This is her caring side coming through. She wasn't scared by this, but what did happen was the sobbing stopped. Then she heard a sniffle, and then the sound completely disappeared. On this, you know I'm skeptic. I find these sort of stories, they're too incredible not to be true, or for that person telling it, who see it, really believe that this happened to them. And that what happens when you come to paranormal stuff. You've got these stories that are made up to make people scared, frightened. Then you get people that experience events in their life that you can't explain. And this lady experienced something in her life that she can't explain, and this is what she's putting it down to, that it was a child on these stairs that was sobbing. What we do know that some people did not have a good time in that building. Even though it was there to help a lot of people, some kids were close to death going there. Now, cholera wiped out a lot of those kids. There's kids going to that have lost brothers, sisters every day. Now, there's people there that would go there one morning and wouldn't come back because they died overnight. There's a lot of stuff that went on that brings a lot of sadness to that building. On the other side, you've got the more joyful ghost side of things. And this comes from a school trip that wasn't that long ago. I'm not going to name the people who went to this, and you can book the room up there and they can run a lesson for you. So you're basically an old-fashioned classroom setting and doing an old school lesson. It definitely gives you a weird vibe. Look at the school desks, they're not too dissimilar to when even I started school in like the 70s. I remember the desks being like this. Although we didn't have benches on them. But this is meant to be one of the most haunted rooms here. So this is where the sounds are heard walking across the floor, which you can hear the floorboards. It does. If anyone's walking up here for night time and you're on your own, you're going to know about it. But we've got the next level where there's also meant to be other sightings up there as well. These children are sitting there, and there's only about 10, 15 kids that have come to this little classroom that I haven't done. Modern day kids. And they're all spread out across the tables, and you've got the person there presenting it and telling them to do stuff. Get them up doing the washboards and all this sort of stuff, going through old maths, old English, and giving a real good old feel of Victorian England. One of the boys that is sitting there on the old bench tables with the old ink pots looks round, and he says sitting next to him is a very pretty young girl wearing old-fashioned clothes. He looks at her, she looks back and laughs. It doesn't click to him, it doesn't click to him that this girl isn't real. He turns around again and laughs back at her, and she's not there. The boy jumps up and runs out the building with the teachers that he's come with chasing after him, and he's saying that he's seen the ghost of this girl. This doesn't surprise one of the people that are in that building at the time. Apparently, some people have said they've seen this girl in this classroom before. Other people said they've been up there and they've heard her giggling, running around that classroom, and heard her footsteps running around that room. Again, other people have said they've been in that building on their own, and that classroom, below that classroom, and they can hear the footsteps of somebody running around upstairs. The footsteps are of a light child running around. They've gone up there, and of course there's nothing up there at all. Okay, sticking with the building, but not the school itself, the activities of the school, we're going to look at, this is the site of the old factories as well. So, on the side of the canal, there is figures seen of a night time walking along that canal, and then you're hearing a splash. Other people around the 1980s turned around and said they've witnessed a figure throwing a bag over into the canal. They hear a splash, but then the figure disappears. They've gone down to check out to see if they can see anything. Even on some occasions, they've called the police, and the police have put divers down there to see if they could pull anything out of that canal, and they've never found anything. So, are these figures that are walking along there old replays of past crimes, or criminal intent that has gone on in that area? Are they people taking their lives by jumping into that canal along that area? It does seem that if you added up all the little ghost stories around that area, there's probably more along the canal itself than actually in the building. I mean, keeping in mind, we are talking about the Regent's Canal, one of the biggest canals in London that has a lot of history, and from time to time, unfortunately, body parts and bodies do wash up along that area. So again, taking that into account, it's plausible that these could be some sort of replays of past misdeeds. But why would this building be haunted? Well, for some children, this was saviour. This is the best thing ever happened to them in their life. This was a good meal twice a week, free education, and they would get given some extra clothes when they went there. This is better than home life. A lot of them didn't have a home life. A lot of them lived on the streets. Real ragamuffins. They had no place to go. This was what Barnardo's done. Now, this is what he changed. I remember being at school, and when I was infants, the Barnardo's Foundation come in and spoke to us as kids and told us all the history of Dr. Barnardo's. And I remember thinking this guy is this massive hero, and how lucky I was that I didn't have to do that. How lucky I was that my life wasn't like that. That I could go home and, had a warm house to go to, free food, and I was at school. And even though I hated school when I was that young, I always hated school. I think it'd be a bit weird if you did like school. No, I liked some times at school, not all of the times at school. I think when you get older, you look back at school and a lot of your memories are quite good. Your pain threshold sort of like wipes out all the bad events. You only remember the good events. A bit like for women when they give birth, all the pain memories go away. You just remember the good stuff that comes out of it. Because if that didn't happen, then you don't have kids ever again. Because I'm sure that pain is just horrendous. So yeah, it's got to be something like that. But yeah, I think these kids, they loved that building, and if they passed away pretty soon, or while they were still going there, they would still be trying to get back to that school. That was their safe place. When you look at that wall, and all those children that died of cholera, they're only buried a few miles up the road at Marlene Cemetery. They're not far from their safe spot. And they're trying to get back there. They still think that if they go back there, they're going to meet up with all their friends. Perhaps they do. Remember the bloke, the paramedic, and the guy who had the accident? And he looked up and saw all those children standing around. Perhaps those children who did die of cholera did finally get back together, and they're all there now having fun and playing games. These footsteps that people hear throughout that building at night time, and during the day when there's nobody else there, they can hear all this laughing and this giggling going on and these footsteps. I mean, walking around that building, when you're treading on those floorboards, if you're downstairs and there's somebody upstairs and they're walking around up there, you know about it. They creak, and every footstep could be heard from below. People who work there say that's quite a common occurrence, that they're sitting there and they know there's nobody else in the building and they can hear people walking above. So maybe those children are back there now having fun, and maybe they're teaching each other, and who knows that when all that building's shut up, they're not up there and playing at school desks and running their own school lessons. Now this bit I was hesitant to go into. So speaking to older people that were once connected with working there for this charity and the museum, and people who creators from other museums and know about this place, there's speculation. I guess everything in today's world is speculation about people mistreating children back then. And this place isn't anything different. There was this little thing that was said to me that it was rumoured that a well-off person in that local area would go there, rent children from that school to go and do work. Now, we don't know what work it was, but I tell you now, that is probably a very common thing back in those days. The chimney sweeps and all that would employ little kids to go off and do work. Is it wrong? Yeah, it's wrong. That's what we believe today. It is wrong. But you look back at old footage and old filming, and you've got the old chimney sweeps. There's a bloke on YouTube that restores all old film and puts it into the correct frame rate and tries to do his best to restore it and colorises it. And you see the kids come out of the factories. Some of them are about 3 to 5 year old. Now, they were the cotton monkeys that go underneath all the sewing machines and bring out all the cotton, all the yarn and all that. And now they would get injured or even killed doing that job. Chimney sweep boys, we've spoken about them before on this channel. A lot of those would pass away by being stuck in that chimney, or would die from lung infections by the time they were like 10. So, yeah, I'm guessing this could have a sad undertone to this building. But when a paranormal team went there not that long ago, was picking up on this dark entity of this person that walked into that building, and all the children would fear them because people who went off with him would never come back. I'm not buying it. I think you're trying to create something evil out of something that was for good. Okay, and if you are that group, or I should say groups that have come across that and have said that in there, I think you're making it up. Okay, I think you're making it up. I think you're making it up for clicks. That, yes, this dark entity or shape is seen in there, but that could just be an old teacher wandering around in there. You know what? It could even be a trick of the light down in there that's causing it. These electricians, they were down there, they spooked themselves. Yes, the blue light is unexplained. That blue light is seen all over that building, not just down there. That blue ball is seen up in the top corners of the top rooms, up in the studio room. So even the studio room, we'll talk about that quickly in a minute. But no, that blue light is seen all over that building. Now, it could be anything, we don't know. As I say, we're still learning what is physically possible in today's world. Now, we don't know everything. Honestly, we do not know anything. Ball lightning is still seen as something of fiction because people say it's never been filmed. I've seen some pretty convincing evidence of ball lightning from the early 80s, even some stories locally when someone down the bottom of my road had a electric ball go through their window and straight through their kitchen and out through the window in the kitchen. And they're sitting there on a Sunday afternoon during a thunderstorm when this happened. So they're not the type of people who would lie neither. These were very prim and proper people, and their curtains caught fire and all this sort of stuff happened, and that is what they put down to, ball lightning. So I think a blue ball anywhere of energy is possible. I don't know. I mean, I know up at the top of One Tree Hill, when you got the power lines go across there, that you meant to see this blue orb go across those power lines. Again, it's an energy field. We don't know what goes on. Okay, so when you visit this place, I do strongly recommend you go there. Look, there's not a lot there. Okay, you'll see 99% of it in this video. I filmed all over the place. But when you go there, you'll go to that schoolroom and you'll think about how sad it was that the kids were there on these desks, and like me, you'll think, oh yeah, I used to have those desks when I was little and all this sort of stuff. That room where that schoolroom is, did I feel sad? It felt okay. I went up to the next level where you've got the art gallery that is up there. Pretty barren at the moment. I guess it depends what artist you use in it and whatever's on show. That area gave me the jitters. And yeah, there was one point when I went up there originally, there was people up there, and even then I felt uneasy in that part of that building. I don't pick up a lot of that sort of stuff. I'm sitting on the fence skeptic, so I try to evidence base anything. But I've got to say that up there I did feel uneasy. And they've got this old photograph that has been recreated as a stage, so you can look it up and it matches up the images from the photograph. Very clever, very well done. It gave me a really eerie feeling just looking at that photo and that, as if all of a sudden I was going to step back into time, my own personal time slip. It was very strange. But what I've come to find out afterwards is that this is the most common location in that building where things get moved around. So people would set up all their artwork, they come back next day and no one's allowed up there after they've left, and everything's been changed around. The paintings they've put up are back down on the floor, not fallen on the floor, just placed back down on the floor. That someone once set up a wheel or something, some sort of description of a wheel, and it'd all been set up and balanced and everything, and they come back up and it'd all been packed back into the box as if it had never been unloaded. So there's some weird stuff that goes on in that room. And typical, if it is children, they are the sort of things that they would do, play tricks on people. I did speak to somebody there on the day about ghost stuff up in that top room. First of all, they didn't really want to talk about it, and they didn't really reply to my questions, and I thought they hadn't heard it properly, so I left it. I'm going around filming and come back down, done a bit more, and then what I wanted to do after that was go back and start reading a lot of the other stuff. So I made my way back up to the art gallery, and I was talking to a person up there, and they were telling me that they're not linked with what was up there on that day. That's not their artwork. I don't know, maybe no artwork, I don't know. And they're talking that they come to that place a lot, and that when they're up in this room, they feel the presence of authority, as if somebody up there is in control of what goes on in that room. He didn't mean it as a negative thing. He was saying it's more like somebody has control, somebody knows what goes on in this room. And the guy seemed to have a connection with mediumship, I guess. Bizarrely, yesterday, I've just come back from the New Forest, Christchurch and Paul and all that, from doing some videos from that area. And I was in the top of Christchurch church, and up in the loft section, the guy showed me around the loft there, a museum. Turned around and told me he was a medium. And we started talking about the rugged skull. And then his interest in the rugged skull, because the top of this church used to have an old school in there. And we started linking up with all this stuff that was going on at Rugged School while I was down in Christchurch. Really bizarre place to bump into somebody who knew about this video that's coming up. So, yeah, perhaps there is something in mediumship after all. I almost forgot this one. So, yeah, there's something else that I need to add to this, is that the stairway, all the stairways in that building, people report small people running past them on the stairs. Now, obviously, they're referring to children. But again, it'll be that somebody's come down the stairs and they feel like a whoosh of wind go past them. And can you feel a whoosh of wind? You can feel a breeze go past them as they're going up the stairs, and then they'll hear a giggling further up the stairway where they're coming up from. Or when they're walking down the stairs, people will rush past them going down the stairs, and the same thing again. Sometimes they even hear the footsteps running behind them as they're coming down the stairs, and the footsteps seem to pass right past them. So again, just saying that I forgot to add to that, I'm just going through all the photographs that I've taken and some of the video that I took on there, and it just strikes me again, looking at these kids, you know, it's soul destroying. It is soul destroying that having such... This is what come across as a bleeding art video. As I say, for me, it left me a bit numb. I wasn't going there to expect it to have this emotional effect on me when I left that building. And again, it reminded me of take me back to my childhood when Dr. Barnardo's come to our school. Not the Dr. Barnardo's, but Dr. Barnardo's Foundation come to my school and gave us this talk on it. And they told us these stories then. And I just remember the effects it had on me, and it had the same effects on me being in this building. So I'm going to end the video here, and this isn't a creepy video, and I don't think that building is a scary place. If you're there and something happens, it's just probably these little kids playing a game with you. And they're enjoying their afterlife. They didn't have much fun in their real life, so let's hope they're having a lot more fun in their spirit life. And I think that'll do it for this video. I've got some good videos coming up over the next few weeks. I don't know if they can get a lot of views. They are not time slip videos. They are your other haunted area ghost stories. I've got one that is a bit like the last video where the poltergeist activity in the house. A lot of people respected what I've done with that video. Other people were a little bit, it was too far-fetched. I've spoken again to the people this morning, and they've read all the comments and they've taken it on the chin. They appreciate that, and they said again to just mention that they lost a lot of friends over this that didn't believe them. So not expecting everyone on YouTube to believe them, but they've appreciated all the comments on there, and they've gone on to have a really happy family life. So we'll put that one to bed, we'll leave that there. But again, thank you for your support. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, check your subscriptions to make sure that they're still there, and put your notification button on, and make sure you hit all so you get notified when all my videos come up. Hype it if you can, And don't forget, we've still got the membership you can join, where I do eventually get out extra videos for you on there. I appreciate everyone being patient with me on there, but you know you're doing this to support me, and it just helps so much. Thank you. Thank you for all the super gifts, super thanks. Thank you for the buy me a coffees. You know what? I went away the other day. It was only overnight, but you doing that allowed me to go and do these trips. You know, okay, my car's on its last legs, and I spent 1,400 quid on that car the other year, and it was only going to last me a year, I thought, because it was pretty shoddy then. And I've put it to the test. Wales, Liverpool, New Forest, and all the other places I've been to, it's done really well. It's really working itself to the ground. I've really put it to the test this time. It only goes about 65 mile an hour now. Don't know what's up with that. It's a 1.6, and it's, yeah, I think it's dying out. But you know what? It took me 5.5 hours to get down to Dorset, and that was just traffic. It was a nightmare. Went there, filmed it, come back, loved it. Got some good videos. I hope that you'll enjoy them. But you allowed me to do that. What you've done with just watching my videos, you know, just by watching my videos, I get the ad revenue, the super thanks helps, the membership really helps, the buy me a coffee really helps. All you together are helping me create this channel and get these stories back out there. Now, I don't think that many people knew this old ragged school even existed. It's worth going to, it's worth supporting. I think it's a brilliant place. It really makes you think, and yeah, it makes you also think how lucky we are to be where we are today. With that said, please take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
You don't have to like